We are building our dashboard and we got still 2 spaces that are empty. Here we got 4 graphs here that are really nice. Now we would like to fulfill here with some real data, so data that we are going to see through like a table, and ChatCN is amazing for tables. So previously we installed ChatCN and we saw that we need to import every component to the application we are coding. It's not automatic, ChatCN is not a library. So here I want to import the data table. So here we got the table component, which is the first component that we are going to insert in here. But also we have another table which is called data table. And we can see here that there's a difference between both of them. One has filters, the other doesn't have filter. So I'm going to start with table. And what I want to do at first is to install this component table, of course. So I'm going to close everything here and I'm going to add my table directly to my UI. And I'm going to type yarn dev. And I'm going to take a look quickly on my UI because I got my table, which is here. And we've got a full component here that is playing the role of a table. So we got tons of code and we export at the end the table. Okay, so here, let's say that on my card, I would like to add a table.tsx and I'm going to call it table.tsx for you to understand that this is where is the table. Of course, if it's going to be a table about users, you can call it users table, whatever. But here is just for the example. Okay, so I got my table. I'm going to call it table component, so I don't get any problem. And we can see here that we've got the full code of the table. So I'm going just to copy paste, okay, the example of ChatCN, and later we will be able to loop through these elements and to fulfill the data we want. So if I take a look at it in here, I can have the full code which is here. So I'm just going to copy paste this full code so it will be better. So I can come back here, either I start myself, either I use the example for ChatCN. Okay, so now I got my table. I want to put it into my UI. So remember, we've got this card here. So inside my card, I would like to put my table demo. So if I type table demo, we can see that I can import it and we should be good. So now let's come back and let's look at it quickly. So I'm going to update my application and suddenly we can see that we've got the table that is taking all the space and we've got everything here. So I'm going to come back and I need to fix at first the 8 but also the padding, because here I didn't put any padding. I'm going to put P32 pixels and there we go. We've got our elements here. So the problem is that here we've got a huge issue on the terms of height. So to avoid this kind of issue, we are going to limit the height of the entire grid, which will be to 300 pixels, okay? And I'm going to put an overflow hidden. And what I want to do is just, I can now remove this and I come back. What I can do is just to put an overflow on this one. So I'm going to put overflow Y scroll. There we go. So what I can do now is to scroll inside my table if I want to. Okay, so as we can see here that we got some data displayed. However, we miss here the title, so I'm going to add it. And we should be good. So look at this, we've got these orders that we can scroll. It's not really nice, but we've got this table that is displaying directly some code. So let's take a look at this code, this table. So we imported actually everything coming from the UI table we installed previously. And here we can see the invoices here, the invoices array, got a certain model, invoice, payment status, total amount, payment method, and every object got this model. So when we look at the table demo coming from ChatCN, we can see that we've got this table, table caption, table header, table row, and we display everything directly in here. And also we loop through the invoices to show every invoice. That's really nice, but here there is no filter and we actually can't look at a specific element into this table. So what we would like to do is not to use table for this. It's useful just to display elements, but what we would like to have is a filter like this with elements like this. So what we want to do here is to actually install also TanStack React table, which will help us to create our second table, which you will find into the repository as data table. Okay, so I'm going to stop here my process. I'm going to install TanStack and React table, which will help me to filter my elements. We are going to use TanStack for that. All right, this is done. So I'm going to come back to my components, to my card here, and I'm going to create a new file called datatable.tsx. Okay, what I'm going to do is really simple. I'm just going to copy paste the whole code and we are going to look at it. So it's longer here. We've got a way longer component, and we can see here that I'm missing some piece. So here I'm missing the checkbox. And when you see this, you can just type npx chatcn UI add latest, and we can add, for instance, here the checkbox. So I got the checkbox, but I also got the input here. And if I look at it, we should be good. So I'm going to just import both of these elements, checkbox and input, directly inside my UI folder to be able to use it through my data table. So most of the time, if you miss some elements like this, you can type npx chatcn UI to install them. Okay, now I got my data table. I'm going to come back to my page where I'm supposed to display it. And I'm going just to copy paste exactly the same as this one. I'm going to call it users. These are the users of this month, whatever. This is just an example. And instead of table demo, I want to call here my data table here, data table demo. And when I come back, I'm going to update. Down here, I'm going to have this little table. So here on this example, of course, we can see here that on this example, I got a little table. Most of the time, I would have a bigger table. I can put it everywhere else, but we can see that I got my users. And let's say that I want to filter for a user, and we can see that we got Ken. And if I take something else, we can see that we've got no results. I can also check for the columns that I want to display, for instance, the status, and we can see already that it's responsive. So here it doesn't make sense to don't get any column, but here I can just put the email, the amount, and we can see that I can also just scroll here directly inside my table. So here is the main difference between those two tables that we can use from chatcn. On the left, here we've got a table without filters that is just displaying elements like this. So here we are in a bento configuration, so it's little, but you can have as big as you want. And you can inject here, depending on the columns, all the data that you want. Here for the data table, it's different. If you want to use a table where you can filter elements, you need to use the data table coming from chatcn. And as we can see here, so we have the columns, we can select the columns, but we can also use the filters. So here from the biggest to the lowest, and here we get, for instance, a search bar that is working directly here, and all of that is coming directly from the code of chatcn that you can copy paste. So basically, of course, you can use the basic table, but you can also customize your own table thanks to chatcn UI.